They thought size was everything, that a man who weighed 800 pounds of pure muscle couldn't lose to someone who looked like he'd snap in half. They were wrong. This isn't a story about fighting, it's a story about what happens when ego meets a force nature didn't prepare for. And it all started with a single laugh. One laugh that echoed through a gymnasium and changed everything that came after. What you're about to hear has been buried for decades. Only a handful of people witnessed it. Those who did never spoke about it the same way again. Southern California, a sprawling strength training facility, the kind of place where the air tasted like sweat and ambition. Steel beams supported a roof that had seen countless feats of raw power. Powerlifters worked at stations, bodybuilders posed under fluorescent lights. The smell of iron and chalk filled every corner. But today was different. A man named Marcus Henley was there, 6'4", 800 pounds of competitive strongman legacy. Not fat, pure muscle, the kind of physique that made normal humans look like children. He'd won competitions, he'd lifted things that shouldn't move. He'd been photographed for magazines where they had to use wide-angle lenses just to capture his shoulders. Marcus didn't know Bruce Lee was coming, but someone had invited him, a friend in the martial arts community. "There's this small guy, martial artist, trains here on Thursdays. You should meet him." Marcus had laughed. Not a mean laugh yet, just curious, skeptical. The gym owner had mentioned it to Bruce that afternoon. "There's a strong man coming by, huge guy, competitive level, probably wants to see if martial arts means anything against real strength." Bruce didn't respond with excitement. He didn't respond with anger. He simply nodded and kept training. By 4 p.m., word had spread. 15 people, 20, then 30. Gym members drifting over, trainers pausing their work. Someone whispered to someone else, and that person told 2 more. The invisible pull of something about to happen drew everyone towards the same corner of the facility. Marcus arrived at 4:47 p.m. He walked through the door, and the gym seemed to shrink. That's what 800 pounds does to a space. It doesn't just occupy room, it rewrites the geometry of wherever it stands. His t-shirt was custom-made. His shorts could fit 3 normal men. His neck was wider than most people's waists. He looked around. "Where's this martial artist?" His voice was casual, amused. Someone pointed. Bruce was on a heavy bag in the corner, shirtless, lean muscle definition visible under his skin, maybe 140 pounds soaking wet. He was wearing black kung fu pants and no shoes. His kicks against the bag were precise, controlled, creating a rhythm that sounded almost musical. Thump, thump, thump. Not wild, not desperate, methodical. Marcus's smile widened. He walked over. His footsteps were heavy. Each one announced his arrival like a bass drum.
The gym had gone almost silent. "You're training?" Marcus didn't hide the amusement in his voice. Bruce turned. His expression was neutral. Not friendly. Not hostile. Just present. "Every day," Bruce said simply. Marcus looked him up and down. Really looked at him. The height difference was staggering. The weight difference was incomprehensible. "Listen," Marcus said, and his tone shifted. It became patronizing. "I respect the hustle. But let's be real. In a real fight, not choreographed movie stuff, a real fight." He paused for effect. "You weigh what? 130? 140, Bruce said. "Right, 140. Marcus shook his head, genuinely entertained. "I weigh 800 pounds. That's not an exaggeration. That's medically verified. I've lifted cars, actual cars. I've bent steel with my hands." He held up one hand. His fingers were like sausages. "So what exactly do you think you could do to me?" The gym was completely silent now. Everyone was watching. Bruce didn't answer immediately. He set down his speed bag, picked up a towel, wiped his forehead. His movements were slow, deliberate. "I'm not sure," Bruce said finally. "Exactly," Marcus laughed. A big, booming laugh that bounced off the metal fixtures. You're not sure, because there's nothing you could do. Size and strength win fights. Always. Someone in the crowd shifted their weight nervously. Bruce looked at Marcus directly. Size and strength, without speed and skill, is just size and strength. Marcus's expression hardened for just a moment. Then he smiled again. Prove it, he said. Show me. Come on, little guy.
Bruce didn't answer. He took a step to the side. Marcus tracked him with his eyes. Another step, then another. Bruce was circling, not aggressive, observational, learning. His feet made no sound against the gym floor. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked. "Looking," Bruce said. "For what?" "For your distance." Then everything changed. Bruce's breathing became audible, not heavy, but present, intentional. His shoulders relaxed, his stance shifted. The casual training partner vibe evaporated. What replaced it was something else entirely, something that made the air feel different. Marcus stopped smiling. "That's your last chance to back down," Bruce said. "I'm not backing down from a guy who weighs—" Bruce moved. It wasn't a punch, not exactly. It was a jab position hand, traveling at a speed that seemed to violate the laws of physics. From start to finish, the movement consumed less than 1 second. Bruce's entire body participated. His feet drove into the floor, his hips rotated, his shoulder exploded forward. His hand was at Marcus's face before the strong man's brain even registered movement. Marcus didn't get hit with full power. Bruce controlled it. But Marcus felt it, the speed, the precision, the intention behind it. The strong man's head snapped back just an inch. The hand stopped millimeters from his nose. Bruce's palm was open. If he'd wanted to, if he'd closed his fist, if he'd followed through. He hadn't, but he could have. Marcus's eyes went wide. That, Bruce said calmly, stepping back, was 3/10 speed. The crowd wasn't breathing. Marcus touched his face. His hand was shaking slightly. He looked at Bruce like he was seeing him for the first time. "Again," Marcus said. "Why?" "Because I want to see it again." Bruce nodded. He assumed the same stance. "Ready?" Marcus set his feet. He tensed every muscle in his body. He was going to track it this time. He was going to see the movement clearly. Bruce attacked. This time it was faster. His hand moved like it was attached to a snapped whip. It came from an angle that shouldn't have been possible. Marcus's eyes followed the movement, but his brain couldn't process the trajectory. The hand arrived at his face with a sound like a sharp exhale. Again, no impact, just arrival. 1/10, Bruce said. Marcus was breathing hard now. His huge chest was heaving. He'd just realized something that was rewriting his entire understanding of what strong meant. "Do it," Marcus said. "Full speed, full power. I want to know." The crowd took a collective step back. "That's not a good idea," Bruce said. "Do it." Bruce looked at Marcus, really looked at him. There was compassion in his eyes, which made what came next even more striking. He took one breath. His body became still, completely still, like a coiled spring that had finally found perfect tension, like a storm about to break. Then he exhaled, and he struck. This wasn't the previous demonstrations. This was the truth. This was what Bruce Lee could do when he stopped holding back. This was the full power, the full speed, the full intention. The hand moved so fast that most of the witnesses later reported they didn't actually see it happen. They only saw the before and the after. Before, Marcus standing. After, Marcus on the ground. The sound was like a physical object, a crack that echoed through the gymnasium, like a branch snapping, like the moment itself had broken. Marcus hit the floor. 800 pounds of strength, unconscious for 6 seconds. When he woke, he didn't get up immediately. He just lay there, breathing, staring at the ceiling. His voice, when he finally spoke, was quiet. What What was that? Bruce was already walking away. He picked up his towel, resumed his training like nothing had happened. That, someone in the crowd whispered, was Bruce Lee. The gym stayed silent for the next 10 minutes. No one trained, no one moved. They just stood there processing what they'd witnessed. Something had shifted in the world. They didn't have the language for it yet, but they knew. Size was not everything. Strength was not everything. Speed, precision, and skill, those were different. Those were something else entirely. And 800 pounds of muscle had just learned the hardest lesson of his life. Marcus didn't leave the gym immediately. He sat against the wall for almost 20 minutes. His trainer came over asking if he needed medical attention. Marcus waved him away. He wasn't injured, not physically. The strike had been controlled, precise, devastating in its restraint. What hurt was something different. His worldview had just been dismantled. For 15 years, Marcus Henley had operated under a single assumption, that size and strength were the ultimate variables in physical conflict. He'd tested this theory 1,000 times. He'd won every time. Larger opponents? He'd moved them. Stronger opponents? Didn't exist. He was the biggest, he was the strongest. Until he wasn't. And the person who'd just shown him that wasn't twice his size, wasn't his equal in weight, wasn't even close. He was a man who weighed 140 pounds and moved like water flowing around stone.
By 5:30 p.m., Marcus finally stood up. He approached Bruce, who was still training in the corner. "That hand," Marcus said. "How do you even generate that kind of power from that position?" Bruce paused. He looked at Marcus with something that might have been respect. "It's not the hand," Bruce said. "It never is. The hand is just the end of the story. The story starts in your feet, in how you root yourself, in how you transfer energy from the ground up through your body. The hand is just where it arrives." Marcus listened, really listened. For the first time in his life, he was learning something about combat that wasn't be bigger. "Can you show me?" he asked. Bruce nodded. They spent the next 40 minutes together. Bruce broke down footwork, showed him stance, explained the relationship between hip rotation and power generation. Marcus absorbed it all like a student sitting at the feet of a sage. The other gym members watched from a distance. By the next day, the story had changed. Bruce Lee knocked out a 900-pound strongman with one punch. By the end of the week, it was even bigger. Bruce Lee destroyed an 800-pound powerlifter, put him in the hospital. A month later, someone swore they heard Bruce Lee had killed a man just by looking at him wrong. This is how legends work. They start with truth. They get filtered through dozens of voices.
3 years later, Marcus would appear in one of Bruce's films as an extra, just a face in the crowd, but he knew, and Bruce knew, and that was enough. What made this moment significant wasn't just the physical demonstration, it was what it proved about Bruce Lee's core philosophy. Bruce had always said, "The key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering." But more importantly, he'd said something that changed martial arts forever. Do not pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. This wasn't about prayer or religion, it was about a fundamental truth. Strength isn't about size. Strength is about efficiency. It's about precision. It's about the economy of motion. Most people waste energy. They use 10 units of power to accomplish something that requires 2 units. They move inefficiently. They lack control. Bruce didn't waste anything. Every movement served a purpose. Every strike was a complete expression of his understanding of physics and biomechanics. He'd studied boxing. He'd studied fencing. He'd studied wrestling. He'd extracted the most efficient techniques from each and synthesized them into something entirely new. That's why an 800-pound strongman didn't stand the chance against him. It wasn't magic, it wasn't superhuman ability, it was superior technique applied with absolute precision. Years later, those who witnessed the encounter would be tracked down by journalists and researchers interested in Bruce Lee's life. One gym trainer said, "I've seen big men my whole life. I've never seen anything move like that. It wasn't human speed, it was supernatural." Another witness, a powerlifter named David Chen, said, "I watched Bruce move that day and I realized I've been thinking about strength all wrong. It wasn't about how much you could lift, it was about how perfectly you could express your intention through your body." Marcus himself, in an interview years later, would say, "People asked me if I was angry about what happened. Why would I be angry? I'd just learned something that changed my entire life. I'd been shown a level of mastery I didn't know was possible. That's not an insult, that's a gift." There was no camera recording that day. This happened in 1971, before smartphones, before YouTube, before the internet. The only record that existed was in human memory, in the nervous system responses of those who witnessed it, in the stories they would tell. This made it more powerful in some ways, less provable in others. People have always wanted evidence, video, photographs, proof that exists outside the human mind. But the real proof existed in how the martial arts community changed after that day, in how Bruce Lee's reputation elevated to near mythical status, in how serious fighters and strength athletes began studying martial arts instead of dismissing it. The story didn't need a video to be true. It needed only to be witnessed, and it was. 30 years later, when Bruce Lee's influence had permeated global martial arts culture, people still talked about the day an 800-pound strongman learned that size doesn't determine outcome. It became a teaching moment, a parable for a new generation of fighters.
Instructors would tell young students, "You think you need to be big and strong to be effective?" Bruce Lee weighed 140 pounds and defeated men 3 times his size. Do you know why? And the students would lean in, ready to learn. Because, the instructor would say, Bruce Lee understood something most people never learn. The body is a system. Every part works in relationship with every other part. You can't just train one aspect of strength. You have to train coordination, timing, precision, efficiency. This principle spread beyond martial arts. Athletes in every discipline began studying Bruce Lee's approach to movement. Dancers learned from his efficiency. Gymnasts studied his body control. Even traditional strength coaches began incorporating martial arts principles into their training programs. An 800-pound strongman had unwittingly become a catalyst for a revolution in how humans understood physical capability. Years after that encounter, Bruce Lee would write something that perfectly captured what had happened. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. Marcus knew he was bigger. Knowing didn't help him. He was willing to fight. Willing wasn't enough. What he lacked was the years of disciplined application, the daily practice, the perfect refinement of technique, the marriage of mind and body. This is what separated Bruce Lee from everyone else. He didn't just think about efficient movement. He lived it every single day, every single training session. Everything he did with 100